you.
Happy
birthday, dear Betty.
Dear Betty.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Sufficiently embarrassed.
Oh, there you go.
He's got the violin.
Oh, good
Oh
music.
my God.
Wow.
Very nice.
Wow. Serenade. Thank you.
So,
So I think he left. He's coming back. All right, let's see.
is Victor coming back?
Yep, let's see. He's coming in right now.
I just saw him.
Hey, there he is.
Hey.
Happy birthday, Betty. I was singing.
For you. Thank
So,
you.
now Victor's big.
There you
Okay.
go.
I'm just going to quickly go through the agenda, and then Victor, you can take it away. Also, when Victor is speaking, or when we have a speaker speaking, Josh will just mute everybody. And then if you don't know how to host a question, you look at the bottom of your screen. You'll see where it says participants, chat, share screen, reactions. If you click on the chat and you have a question or a comment, you can write your question or your comment in the chat. And then Josh, who is our tech person, will respond. So our agenda is, first we're going to hear from our councilman, Victor Gordo. Victor, we have two new people here tonight, whose names, of course, now that I can't see the full screen, I don't remember their names. We have two new people. Victor is our councilman. We are in District 5. He's going to give us just an update on what's going on in Pasadena. And then we're going to hear next from Betty. She's going to talk about the community space in Washington Park. And then after that, Josh and Tamara, if she's here, will be talking about the Scarecrow contest, which we did for the first time last year, as well as the alternatives that they have come up with for the block party. And then I was going to float an idea about making a wishing tree, which I learned about from Pasadena Neighborhood Networks. And then we will have a discussion for a date for the next Board of Directors elections. And then any other announcements. There is another meeting that will be October 2nd, but I'll discuss it at the end. Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Victor.
Great to see everyone rather than one big screen for me.
I think if you go to gallery view, there.
See everyone.
If you're on gallery view, you'll see everybody. Oh, went back to you again.
No, Josh is
Oh,
broadcasting
Josh is doing
to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Josh, if we could see everyone.
Oh, okay. Is that better, Victor?
It's at Mindy in Jordan.
So you should, are you in gallery view or in speaker view?
Let's see, I am in gallery view. Oh, there you are. Just so I can say hello to everyone. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
So fortunately, I had a reserved laptop. So, thank you everyone for joining tonight. I've often said that serving as your council member is, besides meeting my wife, Kelly, and having two beautiful kids, one of the greatest honors I've had. And this neighborhood association and has always been very supportive, individuals and then collectively, and it's just a tremendous honor to serve as your councilman. So I thank you for that. Happy birthday to Betty, and I remember Betty's advice to me on Washington Park when I was first elected. She said, get it right and get it done. And I think we've worked towards that. Every one of you, Carl, Selkin, all of you. I mean, Mindy, Jordan, Tim, everyone has worked so hard. Laurel for this neighborhood, and I certainly appreciate the work that you've done to support our collective efforts to improve the neighborhood. Remember the liquor store across the street in Washington Park. Everything that we've accomplished together now reflects in the beauty of our neighborhood, and we've done it together, and that's the important thing. So all of you have had a hand in that, and a hand not only in inspiring me to work hard for the neighborhood, but inspiring my colleagues on the city council. And I've had lots of colleagues on the city council who over the years you've helped move. And so I just want to thank you for that, first and foremost, and just give you a brief update on the status of our city. You know, COVID changed the world, and it changed our homes. It changed our lives. It changed how we move around, how we greet each other, and it's been tough. From the very beginning, it's been tough, but I'm very confident that we're going to get through this together. I'm very confident that we're starting to see better news. You know, our ICU, we had a conversation yesterday with the head of the infectious disease program at Huntington Hospital, Dr. Schreiner, and with our health officer, Dr. Go. And, you know, the good news is that the number of ICU beds that we're using is down to 6. We have, I believe it's 11 people in the COVID ward at Huntington. And so, you know, the separation, the work that we've done in Pasadena and our surrounding communities is really starting to pay off. But people are still getting sick and they're still getting infected. But the impact is not as great as it was originally, and that's the good news. But we can't let our guard down. Some of the restaurants and local businesses have opened. You know, and a lot of people said, you know, why were restaurants singled out? Why go in and put in rules for them? And I remind people, it wasn't just for restaurants. We put in as quickly as we could. I pressed for reasonable guidelines that could be followed to try and keep us safe and trying to get ahead of the impact to our economy that we're seeing. And it's worked. We were, you know, a little slow in the beginning for various reasons, but we put working with the restaurants, we put the guidelines in place. And, you know, and I should say, yeah, restaurants, you know, it provide a very important vibe. But remember, I worked in restaurants, grew up in restaurants, and it's not just restaurants. It's also the families that rely on those restaurants. You know, the cooks, the dishwashers, even the owners and their families that rely on making a wage. You know, my father worked at the same restaurant for 50 years, Rancheros Mexican Restaurant in East Pasadena. And so I was raised on a minimum wage restaurant salary. And so that was another reason to jump in there. So that's the news on COVID. Our infection rate does continue to go up. I think the number we're at is, I wrote it down during the meeting yesterday, in the neighborhood of 5,000, Vanya, infections. And we've had 121 deaths.
Yes.
In Pasadena. A great bulk of the deaths were early on in the care facilities, skilled nursing facilities. Some of you will recall that some of us on the council pressed to take decisive action there because, you know, people were in danger. and our health department, together with the hospital and others, ultimately did. And so we've turned that curve in the skilled nursing facilities. And then of course we've had, you know, the issue of transparency and trust. And I believe it's an issue of not just policing, but transparency and trust that's really filtered down from, you know, the national, if not the world level, into our own community. We had some terrible incidents, including the death of Anthony McLean, and people, you know, after the George Floyd shooting, and then locally the Anthony McLean shooting, it became apparent that it's not just a matter of oversight for the police department, but it's a matter of building trust and building transparency. You know, I met with the police officers and I explained to them, look, I think it's important that you participate in being a part of the solution, and that means supporting oversight. When I had 100 people show up, some of you may have heard about it, at my front door, from BLM, that was startling. And 100 people, you know, some of them peering in my window, some running in the backyard, some banging on my door. Jasmine Richard with her megaphone saying, "Victor Gordo, we know you're in there. You know, come out." And, you know, initially my reaction was because it was so startling to just stand there for a few seconds. I collected myself, and then something told me the right thing to do was open the door. And so I did. I'm a lot more sure-footed about it now in retrospect, but at the moment, I wasn't. I didn't know what to expect. Anything could happen. And so I poked my head out and walked halfway out the door and said, "Jasmine, what are you doing?" And she looked at me with very honest, you know, real emotion and said, "Victor, we just want to talk." And so I said, "Well, okay, if we can talk, and that's what you want, let's do that." And then she asked if I would wait for the other people to come up and talk, because they were in cars or walking down the street. I said, "Sure, as long as we can have a conversation, that's what we'll do." And so that's what I did. And then they asked if I'd walk a block or two with them, and I did. And so I think the oversight and the trust issue are important issues, not just because of policing, but I think because we all have a responsibility as neighbors, as friends, to listen to one another. And so that became a very important issue in Pasadena. And I think most of you have seen that the city council has passed an oversight model. We adopted it last night, and now we're going to implement it once we have all of the specifics. But, you know, we have to keep in mind that oversight has to be fair, has to be transparent. You know, this is not about vilifying police officers or anyone else, nor should it be. It has to be, you know, we can't talk about fairness to anyone if we're not being fair to the people that we're looking to protect us, and so it has to be transparent and fair, and I think the model that we're ultimately landing on will be fair and transparent. It will include a commission of 11 people. It will include an independent auditor. We're debating back and forth the importance of the independent auditor, and, you know, keeping in mind that when you give someone subpoena power, and as we are giving the commission and the independent auditor subpoena power, it has to be used responsibly for a number of reasons. One, again, there's the issue of fairness, transparency. There's the issue of officer safety. and there's the issue of trust. And so the council is highlighted some issues involving the subpoena and the use of the subpoena power. And so you can expect to see more of that come back. In terms of the economy, we have a very diverse economy in Pasadena, and that's really helped us. But we started out the pandemic before we declared an emergency on March 9th, a health emergency. Before that declaration, we had approximately $80 million in reserves. We have a reserve policy of 20% of the general fund. Our total city budget is about $871 million. The general fund's about $272 million. Well, it's $270 million now. And the rest is the operating companies, the Rose Bowl, the convention center, the utility, public works. But the 272 is what we really have control over as a council. So we started out with an $80 million reserve to backstop that general fund. We spent about $27 million to balance the budget because of the drop off in revenues. The TOT and everything was affected, as you all know, during the shutdown. The transit occupant tax is the TOT went to basically zero. It's rebounded to about 35%, but it went basically to zero. The cost of balancing the budget was about $27 million between this past fiscal year and the one that we started on July 1st. And so take that right out of our reserve. And then the cost of COVID itself, another, $4 million or so. We're still adding it up. And so that, again, right out of the reserve. If you look at the Rose Bowl, who would have known that, the Rose Bowl would be shut down? The convention center, the Rose Bowl, I'm comfortable, is going to bounce back. We're hearing good things about having a Rose Bowl game. Producers and others are saying to us that they expect a strong year for concerts next year because there'll be so much pent up demand. Of course, this all, is the optimistic view that we'll be in a position to have public events. But so the Rose Bowl, I'm confident will weather the storm. But let's think about the convention center. Where the convention center is, for the most part, relies on indoor events. I'm much more confident in people returning to outdoor events. Indoor events it's gonna be tough to convince people to come to a convention anywhere, particularly with the success of Zoom conventions. And so it's going to be very tough for the convention center, I believe. And I don't believe we're paying enough attention to that. And I've raised that with my colleagues. The Rose Bowl is about a $12.5 million debt service. And what that means is if, we rely on the revenues of the Rose Bowl to pay for the debt service that we invested to improve it. It's about $12.5 million. And I suspect we'll have to pay that at least one more time. The convention center is about an $11.5 million debt service. When we reinvested in that facility years ago, we took on some debt, and it was the right thing to do. But now, with the world shifting, they can afford to pay the bills probably for another year and a half or so. And then that $11.5 million becomes the full responsibility of the city. And so that becomes tough. And so you can see how quickly our reserves can be eroded. Now, the good news is on the convention center that it's in large part paid for by the transit occupancy tax. So as long as hotels stays return and come back, then we will have some help there. But I am concerned about the convention center. The other things that we should all be thinking about as a community is how we think about space in Pasadena. You know, office space is likely to take a hit, and we'll have to rethink about how we use that. You know, whether it is housing or whether that space, you know, has a better use beyond housing. So zoning, housing, outdoor dining, in parking lots. I think we've learned that, you know, people actually enjoy the use of the outdoor space in Pasadena, and it's reinvigorated us. But that's going to mean we have to work with the state to change some of the laws for outdoor dining and serving of wine and other things that are not allowed. And so that's going to be important to push back on Sacramento for that. And then there's development in the city. So you know, some of us are very focused, and I think all of us as residents are very focused on how our city evolves. And you've seen Sacramento put in some legislation and pass legislation that's made it more difficult for us as a city to control how the city evolves. And you know, Pasadena, I think, has done the right thing and built affordable housing. And I'm proud that in District 5, we've built the most affordable housing, and we've done it smartly. We've got getting rid of liquor stores in Washington Square on Hudson. You remember the apartment that's now Hudson Oaks was once a burned out apartment building. And the city stepped in with the support of my colleagues and replaced it with beautiful, affordable housing. And Hudson Oaks was born. And so I think we need to think about how we do more of that. And so with that, those are some of my opening thoughts on where we are. You know, I'm getting a lot of questions about Halloween, or are we going to, you know, cancel Halloween? The short answer is, you know, we're not saying don't have Halloween celebrations. We are saying, and our health director is saying, let's have responsible Halloween celebrations. And the contest that Washington Square started is a perfect example of that. The Scarecrow contest. So that's what we're telling people. Going door to door is probably not safe, and we are discouraging that. And then, well, let me stop there and see if there are any questions or comments that you might have. I know I gave you quite a bit there, but.
So Victor, Jerry, Robin, and Tobin had a question. They asked how many PPD officers live in Pasadena.
You know, there aren't. Well, one, most of that information is not disclosed. I'm not sure on the exact number at the moment, because we've had such a shift in Pasadena police officers. I think we've had, by the latest numbers, over 35%. Most of a great deal of our officers have fewer than 5 years of experience on the force. So I don't have, but we can get that information in broad terms. How many of our force are on there? We have 234 officers, positions, I should say, but we have about 219 officers. I'm not certain how many of them at the moment live in Pasadena. But let me also say this: in smaller communities like Pasadena, and I'm comparing us to Los Angeles and other places, oftentimes police officers don't want to live in the same city where they're you know, arresting people or citing people, and that's something that we have to keep in mind. They don't, you know, there are 2 points of view on that issue. One, that we should absolutely encourage police officers to apply, and people from Pasadena, and I believe in that. I do believe that we should encourage young people from Pasadena to apply for the police department, but we also have to respect when they say, you know, I'd rather not live in Pasadena because one of the reasons is, I don't want to be in the grocery store if I've just arrested someone. Now, the real issue, in my view, is them getting to know our city, getting to know the people in our city, being willing not just to drive by, but get out of their car and communicate with people. And that's something that comes with training. It comes with community policing. And that's something I strongly support. So I don't have the exact answer, but I can get it for you. And I'll continue to ask that we recruit locally, that we encourage officers and their families to live here.
So Cooper had a question. Let me unmute him so that he can ask it.
Hi, thank you so much for your time, council member. I just wanted to say I appreciate the comment about police oversight and transparency, but I was wondering your thoughts on possibly reallocating some amount of the police budget to invest in underfunded programs like mental health treatment, housing, food security, and things of that nature.
Yeah, this is an issue that's come up. About 2 years ago, I asked that the city council review not just the police department budget, but all budgets to see if we could be more effective and efficient. Some of you actually attended the council meeting when I said, let's do things differently at the police department. Let's have a park safety specialist. I know, Betty, you were very helpful in making the argument that we should have more park safety specialists, civilians, and have a softer approach to policing. And so some say, take a percentage of the budget and just allocate it differently. And I think we have to be more thoughtful than that. I think we have to look, at how we approach policing in Pasadena, no question about that. I think we have to find ways to better address the mental health issues in Pasadena. We have our own health department. We do, but carved out of our health department is mental health. That remains the jurisdiction of the Los Angeles County Mental Health Department. And so I do support asking the county to do a better job of providing mental health services. And I've asked for that a number of times, providing those services in Pasadena. I do support looking at how we do things differently, and not just in the police department, but every department. Vanya and Superintendent Vera Vignes and I and others press for the Office of the Young Child specifically for that reason. That's an effort that helps kids prepare to enter first grade. So 0 to 5, we discovered there, a lot of kids aren't prepared to enter first grade. And they don't have access to early childhood education or even childcare. And so we pressed for the opening of that office, and that was a redirection of resources. We had to fight for that position. Some of you, again, were very helpful. And so that's one example of what we should be doing, is using resources differently, because we all understand the value of public education. We all understand if it doesn't happen, then kids are going to be at a disadvantage. So long way to say, I support looking at doing things differently in the police department, every other department. And we're now starting that work.
Thank you, Victor. So I have another question from Carrie Belling. He wanted to ask, how will the new oversight guidelines encourage police to avoid excessive use of force?
I think, the benefit of oversight and, the nexus with use of force is to have not just an after the fact review of a use of force, but to have a commission and an independent inspector look at our policies and our procedures to see if they're the most effective. look at our training in advance before use of force occurs. And so I think the greatest benefit of the oversight can be proactive. You know, I've asked a number of times, you know, are we employing the best tactics and the best procedures? And it will be interesting to see what an independent, you know, and when we ask the police department and we ask the city manager who are in charge of policing. So one of the benefits of having a commission for me as a council member and having an independent auditor, I think for all of us is we'll have an unvarnished view before uses of force occur. And so I think that's number one. Number two will be, you know, the tracking of uses of force. One of the things I've learned is in Pasadena, we keep track of uses of force, but only certain uses of force. The more serious uses of force are the ones we track, and we need to change that. And again, I think oversight, we should track all uses of force. I think oversight and the discussion that we've gone through has brought that to the forefront. And so, you know, the getting ahead of it, the training, and having officers understand that we're going to track all uses of force are some of the benefits of oversight that I'm looking forward to.
Thank you, Victor. Does anyone else have any other questions for Victor?
Yeah.
Hey, Carl.
Go ahead, Carl.
So I was wondering, and I'm sorry, I was typing it up, but I'm really slow. Uses of force are one thing, but intimidation is another issue. That is stopping people and, you know, asking them to get out of the car or whatever, you know, in some cases where it's not in others. So how do you train people to kind of dampen situations where intimidation is the problem that could eventually lead to force, but not necessarily? So a lot of the people who are concerned in the, for example, African American, Latino communities feel the stress of just being out there and not knowing how they're going to be treated. How do you deal with that? Not only from the training of the police, but also by communicating to the public.
You know, so one, it is bias training. It is, you know, the training in communication, and it is the tracking of stops and how they're handled. It's the transparency that the cameras bring, and it's also asking officers to, you know, not asking, but demanding that officers treat everyone with the respect that they would anywhere in the city, or, you know, anyone from any background. And it's also asking that we take a different approach to policing, Carl. You know, when we look at La Pintoresca Park as an example, and what transpired there, you know, often we've learned officers don't get out of their car and talk as much to the individuals at La Pint until they get a call. And so asking the public, one, to be more open to, you know, having a police officer get out of the car, but also asking police officers to do it in a way that that isn't necessarily enforcement, you know, to do it when there is no call. You know, we've been in our district big proponents of the neighborhood action team. You'll recall we pressed for that approach to policing because it puts people on bicycles. Besides being an effective patrol tool, it also puts people on bicycles in neighborhoods and in parks, and helps to improve communication and relations with the public. I talked a little bit about the park safety specialists. You know, they're not armed. You know, they're representatives of the police department, but they're just, you know, one of the benefits of a park safety specialist is it's just a civilian employee, non-sworn. There's no weapon. Well, actually they do carry, I think they carry the mace. But their job is to be like park rangers, sort of ambassadors. And I think we need to look at that, you know, back to the question on how we use resources in the police department. I think looking at that model for parks and for neighborhoods, where it's not always just a contact with enforcement that could lead to a use of force, but it's just a contact as individuals who work for the police department with all of our residents. And so it's an active engagement, Carl, that I think a non-threatening approach that I think we need to do a better job with. I hope that answered your.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you, Victor. Does anyone have any other questions that they'd like to ask Victor? Or topics? I had one, and I always kind of ask it because it's the one chance when I see you, is I noticed that the Washington Theater has some windows in it now. And I was curious, you might have any updates on that building.
So yes, it has windows, and they have been continuing to, they did the roof on the theater box instead of the barrel. It's a flat roof, unfortunately.
You're all aware of that, right? One of the historic aspects of it is just it's I used to go there as a kid for double features in Spanish, and I remember from my days as a kid, and so it was troubling when they took out the historic dome feature of the theater.
So they did replace the glass, and I will say that she has been definitely committed to making the improvements and continuing to work forward. Are the qualities of the improvements sort of at the historic level that we would love to see? Absolutely not. But they meet the building standard, which is a little frustrating. I know I call David Reyes every time I see any kind of activity at that site. They do have regular inspections. So they were doing weekly inspections, even when the plate glass windows were going in. Because I actually thought they were going to be paned windows, but they were the plate glass windows. She is right now trying to find a way of getting the water turned on with the city. And what planning is working on is they still need to do some more interior, finish some interior improvements before staff will agree to turn on the water. So it's kind of like this carrot and the stick kind of a situation, trying to encourage her to continue with the work so that the building, continues to stand and is rehabbed. But they're not giving her everything all at once. It's okay, so complete this so that we know that we can see the progress. Okay, so you'll get that. And then it's sort of that kind of a process. The other thing that she has contacted our office about is wanting to figure out the parking situation using the city's lot behind the building. And in talking with David Reyes, he's very clear that staff is nowhere near having a conversation with her about that until there's a tremendous amount more work still that needs to be completed before we get to that conversation. So it's moving forward, which is a good thing. The building is protected, it's seismically retrofitted, but it's not as fast as we would like to see it. It's not as fast as staff would like to see it, but it is continuing to move forward. I would say this is probably the most amount of progress we've seen her make consistently in a really long time. So.
Some of you will recall there's a small parking lot behind. That's the parking lot that Vanya's making reference to. There's a small parking lot behind the theater, and it's the only parking for that building. And that parking lot is city owned. And so they've constantly asked for that parking lot to be turned over to them. And so what we've said to them is, not until we see progress, we're willing to to be helpful. Of course, it's going to have to be sold, not given to them at a reasonable market rate. But we're willing to contemplate that when we see progress. And as we see more progress, then we can begin to have those discussions. And that's what Bud is making reference to.
Interesting. So you're saying the city might sell the parking lot to them?
Yeah, well, we may ultimately turn that parking lot over to them, either in a sale transaction or some sort of affordable housing covenant. There has to be some benefit to the city. We can't just give them a piece of
when it's sold, do they have to keep it as a parking lot, or can then they build onto it and build like a new structure?
No, they would have to keep it as a parking lot. At one point, they wanted to make that an entrance for underground parking, but I think those plans never materialized.
Right.
So again, we would put some conditions on it so that they don't misuse the property as part of the arrangement.
Gotcha. Cool. Thank you. Does anyone have any other topics they'd like to talk about or ask Victor about?
Carrie?
Go ahead, Carrie. You need to unmute, Carrie.
Oh, yeah. Okay, undeniably, we're facing all these crises right now. Climate change, fires, economic recovery, COVID-19. This is a huge thing to happen to us, as you said, Victor, but we also have the chance to turn this around over the long term and address these issues in a profound way. What do you see as a way forward to make Pasadena more livable? What I mean by that is less reliance on automobiles, more reliance on walking, making it safe. We've been exercising outdoors, gotten used to that. We want to keep that going. We had the signs for a while that promoted that. And then if we want to have economic recovery, I think we're going to have to go this route of having things outdoors and encouraging people to get out of their cars and walk to the restaurant, bike, or take public transit when it feels safe. So there's a lot of issues, but can you see that there could be an opportunity here for us as well to really take a new stance, which we have to do. We don't have a choice about it at this point.
Yeah, no, thank you. And bicycle riding, Carrie, that's
my favorite.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say it. But yeah, if there's a there are some silver linings in COVID. It's causing us to think differently and think about our neighbors, but it's also causing us to move around and walk. I mean, I see people in my neighborhood, and many of you know I live on with my family, and I live on Jackson and Madison on the corner with the house with the two big globe lights. And I see people walking around. I see people bicycling. I even saw a go-kart, a little kid. I haven't seen a go-kart in probably 30 years. I saw a little kid driving around in a go-kart. I'm not sure how safe that was. But people are getting out into the neighborhood. And I think, Carrie, we have to encourage that. And I think it will bring, my hope is long-term, it will bring a renewed focus on pedestrian safety, on bicycle safety, on outdoor activities, all the things that you mentioned. If we continue to do it and we speak up, the sustainability issue that you talk about is so important. One of the things that I've argued at City Council is, we have all of this development and all of these high density developments. And some argue, well, that's the way to create sustainability. But sustainability comes in so many different forms, and we've not measured. For example, we've talked about high density development in terms that Carrie is talking about, you know, involved with transportation, but what about the infrastructure? What about water? You know, we already buy 60% of our water from MWD, from outside of Pasadena. The utility, you know, we have our own utility, and we're having to, you know, invest more in the utility. You know, back to the water issue, we just bonded $50 million, not last night, but the Monday before, for investment into the water infrastructure. And so we're taking more and more water, more electricity, and that too is a part of sustainability. So when we talk about sustainability and talk about, you know, development and transportation, we also have to bring an analysis and a balance with our natural resources like water and electricity. Now, fortunately, the cost of renewables has now started to go significantly down as technology catches up. And so I think we can meet our goals on the renewables as it relates to sustainability.
High density housing, though, would be less water intensive than, say, a residential housing.
Yes, that is true. The fixtures are updated fixtures, and you're absolutely correct in that regard. It's just a matter of finding the balance with how much high density development and its impact on our community as well. You know, it has changed the look and feel and fabric of our city in some places, and begun to encroach on single family residential neighborhoods. And so there's a balance to be struck there, no question. We just have to be smart about it and make sure that we're looking at, you know, at it from every aspect. But you're correct. The high density development in the long term, in terms of water, because it's newer fixtures and you know, there are no yards to water. But that too has an impact when you do away with the open space that families have available to them. Then you have to start thinking about open space and parks, and, you know, as an example, Arroyo, Villa Park, Washington Park, because then recreation opportunities become more limited. And our open space infrastructure is more burdened. And so that's precisely the analysis that we need to undertake, all of these elements, because they're all, you know, they're all interwoven.
Thank you.
Victor,
Yes.
we've taken an hour of your time, so I'm going to wrap this segment up. I just wanted to point out our two new people. I hope I get this right. It's Cooper, right? And Brett. They have just moved into our neighborhood. So we had welcomed them before you came on board. But just on behalf of everybody, I'd like to thank you and Vanya for all your time.
And then also, Mindy, I just realized there's also Rosemary, who's also new to our neighborhood.
Oh, hi, Rosemary. Where do you live? Which street are you on?
I'm on Heather Street. I've met Josh and Betty already because we're on the same street.
Okay, so we have 3 new people.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you very much for both of you for your time.
Thank you, everyone. And again, thank you for the honor of serving as your city councilman. It's a tremendous honor. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, Betty, you're up next.
Good night,
And you're welcome to stay or go, both Vanya and Victor, whatever you need to do.
I think I'm going to go have dinner with Kelly and the kids. Go ahead. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Goodbye, Victor. Thank you.
Good night.
And if he's walking out the door, Victor, I just want to thank him for all the work he's done on Washington Park too. You want me to start now, Mindy? Okay. Many of you know that we've been working on a master plan for Washington Park for the last 15, 16 years, and we've made a lot of progress, but one of the major parts of it that isn't done yet is the community house, which our community space, which is going to replace the old restroom up there. And right now we're making progress on it. Some of you should have received a survey from the city about, I don't know, 4 months or so ago, which gave 2 options for replacing the restrooms, one with 2 separate buildings and one with just 1 building. The one that was voted on as most popular was the 2 separate buildings, a restroom separate from the main building. And so we've had 1 community meeting and a couple meetings of Friends of Washington Park with the city staff that are and the design team that are working on it. And right now it's at the point where they're starting to take the plan to the various and sundry commissions that it has to go to. They've taken it to the Northwest Commission, and I think the next commission is, whoops, look at my stuff here. Anyway, the next commission is the Historic Preservation Commission. They'll be doing this for the next several months, Design Commission, Rec and Parks, and maybe the Arts Commission, I'm not sure about that. And if anybody wants to know, have a schedule of that, I can send them a list of those, or I don't know if we have a page that can be posted on, Josh. Do we still have a neighborhood page for posting things like that?
Yeah, we can put it on the website.
Okay, and then we can put pictures. I don't have really great pictures of what it's looking like so far, but it's basically a craftsman style. And it's very nice, about 1,000 square feet. It'll have a large room with screen and tables and stuff for meetings, community meetings, and also for the recreation and parks programs that go on there. And yeah, it's looking really good, I think. But we, unfortunately, because of COVID, we've been kind of prevented from having the kind of big meeting up in the park where everybody can just come and talk and walk around, you know. There will be a community meeting in November. I don't know the exact date yet. And then it goes to plan check in February of 21. This is the schedule the city has planned for it. You know, something could change, with construction beginning in July of 21 and a grand opening in February of 2022. And, you know, I'm just making a joke that maybe we could line up and get our COVID vaccine shots at the grand opening there. But not very funny, but the way things progress. So if anybody's interested in anything else about it, you can email me, bettysword100@gmail.com.
Betty, could you put your email in the chat?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Do that. Yeah, any questions?
I have a question. So I remember the costs for the community building and the cost of the bathrooms were kind of surprisingly astronomical. But
Yeah.
there was some discussion of more fiscally reasonable, economical ways of dealing with it. Have those been followed through, or what's the status?
Yeah,
Definitely. That's what we had been pushing for. I think that was the big hump that we were trying to get city staff past, is we were not looking to spend $1 million just on a bathroom. And so we brought to them a variety of other possibilities that were far less expensive. And I think, you know, with that and Betty and other folks from Friends, really sort of finally pushed staff to really look at this a little bit differently. So what the city is going to do there with the community house and the bathroom could actually be sort of precedent setting for other parks to look at doing something that's much more reasonably priced and just as beautiful and more useful than the $1 million bathrooms that we have been building in our various public parks.
thanks, Vanya.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? And I just wanted to say, for the new people in the neighborhood, if you haven't been up to the park, right now is probably not the best time because about a third of it is chain linked off because of COVID. The whole play area, the children's playground equipment and the softball field is all chain linked off. And I don't know what the date will be for opening those back up.
We don't have a date yet on that. I think that's going to depend on the state and sort of what the reopening guidelines are. It's been nice to see. I know that yesterday evening, the tennis courts were being heavily used. Socially distant. Doubles is now allowed by the state, so they were within compliance. So that's been nice. It's good to see some positive activity happening there, but it is sad to see the play area and the field all cordon, chain link fenced off.
Yeah.
So Betty, I know it's not the newest version, but I did put in the chat. I was able to find some screen grabs of the building. So if people want to take a look, I think there's another version that's been amended since the last meeting you had, but people have kind of an idea of what you were discussing.
Thanks, Josh.
Sure.
That's all I had to say.
I have one other question. Are you guys still going up there on Sundays and working the, taking care of the plants and stuff? And how is that going?
We haven't for the last month because of the 100-degree heat and then the smoke and everything. But I think it was about a month ago last time we went gardening, and it ends up being Joe and Peppy and I a lot of the time because I don't know if people are just don't want to. Ever since COVID hit, it's just, I think mostly been three of us and maybe one new person who moved in across the street. So if you're interested, Peppy sent out a notice. It might be nice weather this Sunday. So we will be doing some planting sometime in the fall because we lost a lot of plants in the pollinator garden, and the city has promised to fund renewing those. But we wanted to wait till fall because of the hot weather.
Thank you very much, Betty. Before Josh and Tamara start talking about the block party and the scarecrow, I just wanted to say to the new people, I'm going to put my email in the chat, and if you would email me your email, I can add you to the list of neighborhood people. So when there's something happening, I mean, if you'd like to, if such as this meeting, I send out an email, or whoever will be in my place can send out an email. So if you would like to respond, I'll put my email in there while Josh and Tamara start their presentation. Take it away.
Thanks, Minnie. Hey, everyone. Hey, Tamara.
Hey, I'm there. I'm here. I'm not there. I'm here.
Do you want to lead it?
Sure.
If you want. If not, I can.
Yeah. No. I mean, jump in, please. So we would normally be like heavily into the stage of being about to have our block party in the next few weeks, and Josh had the idea that maybe we should still try to proceed with having some kind of fall celebration to bring the community together, being that we all haven't seen each other as much as we normally would. So we have come up with a few ideas. We're calling it, we're fall in this together. And we're gonna do an event that I'll let Josh talk about the first event. Then we're going to, it's not an event, maybe that's not the right word, but we're planning something. And then we're going to do a block party the weekend of October 18th.
It's the 17th and 18th.
17th and
We're
18th.
still working on that.
but not an in-person block party. What we're hoping to do is have experiences that people can sign up for, like possibly, it's still kind of in the works, but possibly 3 experiences on Saturday and 3 on Sunday. We're hoping we can just utilize people in the neighborhood to lead these experiences. The idea would be maybe a craft one, a cooking one, and possibly like live music or something. So if you're interested, you could, oh, cool. Yes, we need people. I see gesturing for Cooper. he might be being thrown under the bus right now. I can't tell for sure.
Really just got thrown under the bus.
And then hoping to do a little something for Halloween. So I'll let Josh speak now.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Tamara. So, so instead of just doing this one event block party like we normally do, we figured we try to stretch it out a little bit over the month. And last year we did the Scarecrow contest, which was really popular and everyone seemed to like. And so the block party committee, when we were meeting, we're trying to think about what we should do this year, and we decided to do a little tweak to it, so it's a little different this year. Going along with the theme of we're falling this together, which was Tamara's idea.
I take responsibility for that dorky. Yeah.
But I think it works. It works. It's growing on me. So, so with the Scarecrow contest this year, what we're looking at doing is for people who want to participate, you do like a 6x6 foot area of your yard that incorporates the theme, we're falling this together. And it could be a scarecrow, or it doesn't have to be a scarecrow. It could be like a piece of art. It could be like whatever you want, but it has to contain, I forgot, is it one or both of these things? Either or? Okay. It's either gonna contain in it something like a crown, because Pasadena is the crown city. And it's got to, or have a PPE in it. So like a mask or, something like that. So, and was there a third one that we came up? No, it was just those 2. Okay. So yeah, so as long as it's 6x6, it could be smaller, but no more than 6x6 feet. And it could be a scarecrow, or it could be any other kind of thing that shows we're falling this together. And the prize is $100 cash prize. So, yeah. So there's a little incentive.
Going big. We want to get people.
And what are we gonna do? And then the winner will be announced on the weekend that we have the virtual block party. And again, like what Tamara was saying, on the weekend of the 17th and 18th, we're doing like online experiences, and we really want to try to see. There's a lot of talented people in the neighborhood, and we really think that a good way for us all to get together, instead of having someone that we just hire and come in and we don't know from outside the neighborhood, there are people who do have skills and talents and do want to participate. So like, for instance, we're still working on this, but like Tamara said, a cooking class, or maybe there's gardening tips or something, art or music. And then we'd have it scheduled, and we'll post it throughout each of those days, and then people can come on and join in and say hi and participate. And we're still working on ways to make it interactive. So you'd find out like which one you'd like, and you kind of pre-register. I don't know. We think it'll work out pretty well. I think it'll be fun. It's not exactly like the block party, but for this year, I think it's a good alternative.
Are you thinking maybe of having a central meeting and then have breakout rooms for people to choose different kinds of activities that they could do?
It's possible. Yeah, we could do it that way too. We're still right now working on the logistics of it. And we're going to send out a flyer, on around October 3rd with all more information on it, and how we're going to do it. So we could do it that way, or we may have it actually scheduled, because some people may not be able to make it at that one time. So we may have it scheduled at different times throughout the day. So that way, if you can't make something in the morning, but there's something you're interested in like later in the day, you can do that as well. And we're trying to do it so that it kind of there's something for the kids, there's something for a little older people, and there's something for seniors. So we're trying to really try to fit something so that everyone in the neighborhood has something that might be interested in.
Tiger, if you or your family, I feel like you guys have, there's a chef, a pastry chef or something, right, in your family? So just, I thought of you. So if anyone you know is interested, please just reach out to us and let us know. And that goes for all of, like, if anyone has a talent or knows someone who has a talent that you think might be interested in participating, please let us know. Because like we were saying, we would love to keep it within the neighborhood if we could.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, sorry, real quick, and then again for Halloween, we're still trying to figure that out because it's a weird situation this year. One of the ideas we're playing around with is possibly for the kids of Washington Square is doing more of like a Halloween treasure hunt type of thing. So like a week or a couple days before Halloween, they may get something at their door that says a cryptic message that says you've been invited to the Halloween Haunters Club, and then there'll be clues around the neighborhood, and if they find those clues they can take pictures or whatnot, and then something will be dropped off at their house, a treat or something like that once they've completed it. But we want to do it in a way where it's just like they're walking around the neighborhood or they're able to find the things, and so they're not, it's not like masses of people, and it would only be for the Washington Square kids. Greg, do you have a question? Oh, you're saying thumbs up. Okay.
Jordan has a good idea.
Yeah, if anyone has any ideas for that too, I'm definitely open to it.
Speak it. Say it.
Hi, everyone. I heard, I think from another parent who I used to know, I don't know, they live on the west side, but they are having a costume parade in their neighborhood. So the folks will like sit on their porch. I don't know if they're doing the candy thing or the treat thing, but kids get to sort of have a parade. I don't know how that would work though. I think they like cornered off places in their neighborhood, and it seems really organized, but
yeah,
it sounds really cute.
Yeah, that's good to think about. And if the kids walked at like a certain distance or something, then probably we could make it work. So yeah, cool. We'll think about that too.
I just wanted to make a comment about the scarecrow. I put it in the chat, but maybe you didn't see it. I think it would be a good idea to say that it has to be something people make as opposed to just go buying it at CVS, a ready-made.
No store-bought scarecrows.
Yeah,
You're disqualified.
We had one last year, I'll remind you. And actually, the parade idea is a good idea. It's sort of like when we did that dog parade. It could be kids instead of dogs in costumes, because the dogs were in costumes, so it could be kids in costumes.
Kids and dogs.
Kids and dogs, yeah. Great, thank you, Mindy. Let's see. I think that's kind of what we have for right now, logistics-wise. I mean, there'll definitely be more information, and if anyone's interested in helping with these events and with the block party, please, you can email me, and where the block party committee will still keep meeting, so it's not too late to join if you want to help out. All right, thanks, Mindy.
All right, thank you.
Russ, can you also put your email just for people that maybe deleted your email, then that might want to.
Sure.
I know that they had to email you to be on this meeting, but just give it out again.
Sure.
So I guess the other part was, are you and Tamara finished with?
Yeah, we're all done. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So I sometimes attend Pasadena Neighborhood Networks, which is run by Brian Beery. And it's some of the other surrounding neighborhoods to ours. And one of the neighborhoods, it's been a while, I don't remember which one, they were discussing with him something that people in Japan were doing, which was making a wishing tree, which was specifically started, I don't think it was actually started because of the pandemic, but it was continuing on because of the pandemic, where people, there was a designated tree and people would write a wish they had and then tie it onto the tree. And I wanted to float that idea as something we could do in our neighborhood to kind of pull people together, something that would be positive. I'm sure we all have a lot of wishes right now. So I guess we could open that for discussion somehow. There's not that many of us here, 20. So
That's a good number.
I guess
Minnie, I just posted, there's a wishing tree in Arlington Gardens.
Oh.
And the thing about the wishing tree is that if it's not well maintained, it gets kind of raggedy looking. People hang their wishes up, and after a while with weather and stuff, it, you know, kind of looks sad.
Sad wishing tree.
Yeah, you know, so,
well,
you know,
maybe it would,
I think you have to have somebody kind of looking after it, and, you know, maybe people only post a wish for a short period of time and then it needs to come down, you know.
yeah, well, I was thinking of that maybe like for 1 week, maybe right before the winter holidays, depending on the weather, or before New Year's. Josh had said maybe as a New Year's thing.
There'll be a lot of extra trees right before New Year's.
That's true. We could collect all the old Christmas trees and turn them into wishing trees. It seems to work pretty well in, they showed picture slides of wishing trees in Japan. Of course, I guess they have more of a
They have
custom.
them at temples in Japan because I lived there. I happened to teach English there for a year, so you would see them a lot at the temples, and they're beautiful. But being that it's Japan, I think they maintain them very.
Yeah.
They're very precise in the way that they maintain them.
No,
Assiduous.
That's why I was thinking maybe like for 1 week.
Yeah, they did one along. I remember it made an impression. I think it was actually Yoko Ono. You know how she does art installations, and so they did one at One Colorado. I'm pretty sure it was her art installation, and you would hang a wish, and it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. So I think if it's just only for a certain amount of time, it would probably be really
It allows
successful.
people to be creative. There was one in Little Tokyo across the street on 2nd Street where I had an office, and people tied colorful cards, and it was really quite charming. So I think if you just had a limited amount of time, I think people could sort of come together, be a little creative, and then because we're Americans, we'll throw it away when we're done. After a week, yes.
Well, at any rate, I'm just floating the idea, and I can send something out and see if there's any interest in that. Another thing, before I forget, before we go on to the thing about the election meeting, I posted it in the chat, but on October 2nd, there's going to be another neighborhood meeting. Brian Berry, the same person I was just mentioning, he has a presentation that he does about the history of African Americans in Pasadena, and he did that for Bungalow Heaven, and I heard a lot of good things about that. And so I asked him if he would do it for our neighborhood as well. He has lots of archived photographs, and I think it's about an hour presentation. So there will be another flyer, and I'll post it on Nextdoor and send out an email. So just heads up, that's October 2nd at 7 p.m. And then I don't know who should now discuss the Board of Directors meeting election. If it should be me, you, who, you? There, you.
Well, suffice it to say that we're past the point where we should have had elections, and the current leadership is long in the tooth. So we can, you know, it might be sufficient just to say that there has to be an election. I don't know if it's to happen at the October 2nd meeting or later.
I don't think it should be that meeting. That's really
right. So I think we're really maybe announcing that these positions become available maybe before the end of the year. Is that what we're thinking, Josh, tomorrow?
Yeah, I think we were thinking maybe November. That might be
Yes.
a good time to shoot
Yeah.
for.
Yeah,
And,
because we'll be,
Yeah, that's when elections seem to be held.
Oh, right. Yeah,
well, we'll be past our own events, right?
So November 3rd, is that what we should go?
I
Well,
think
so like
maybe not.
late November.
I think we'll be like this on November 3rd.
We also.
So I think we should
sorry.
establish a date. I don't know if we have to do it now. It's been a long meeting. But we're looking for people to, participate and further and kind of take the helm.
That was the little plug I wanted to give, is that I think that that we have this really incredible neighborhood association, which is special about our neighborhood, but often the same people will kind of end up stepping up for the roles, and I think it really rejuvenates and refreshes. Everything brings new energy when new people get involved. So I'm doing a little plug to all the new people in the neighborhood. If you have any interest, it's a really great way to get to know people in the neighborhood, and we've got lots of different positions, right? I don't know that all of them are filled.
We used to have
used to have secretary,
treasurer. Well, Arlene's the treasurer, right?
Oh, yes.
Brent was asking what roles are available. Sorry, just you're going over. So
yeah.
I think they're all pretty much available, except for treasurer.
Yeah, Arlene is treasurer for life.
Yeah, there's a structure of block captains whose nominal job is to hand out flyers. But I think the thing that's the most enjoyable about the association is that a lot of what we do is community building and community, joining together. That's really what the block party is. That's our annual coming together with the entire neighborhood. And then we've been trying to have these individual events like the Scarecrow contest. A couple years ago, we dreamed up a dog parade. It just came up as a joke, and then we had it. And then, we awarded the Golden Bone. The kids dressed up. It was a lot of fun. So those are things that are something that are minimal amount of involvement, but we can attract everyone in the neighborhood to just kind of come together, meet your neighbors, and have a dog parade. Why not?
We've also, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, because I was going to switch topics.
Oh, just to put it out there as well, if anyone's into planning parties and that kind of thing, I've keep bringing up this idea of a social committee, and I think we've kind of created one. Actually, we've got 4 of us who are currently working on the block party, but I feel like we often will come together, and Jordan and Mindy have been involved as well.
Yeah, that's
so
to help you.
Yeah, so if anybody else has an interest in that, the idea behind it was that instead of just one block party each year, maybe we could plan some smaller things throughout the year just to help people get to know one another. Instead of just, say it again.
We were derailed by a pandemic, but
yeah. So anyway, that also exists. If you have an interest in being a part of something like a social committee, just reach out to any of us really, and you could really participate as much or as little as you wanted to. So.
The one other thing I forgot to mention is that I'm in contact with, unfortunately, I don't have his business card, but he does map your neighborhood, which is a way for neighbors to, on each block, to connect in case of a disaster, like earthquake, fire, whatever.
It's a disaster preparedness program.
And so that would also be a meeting we should have in the not too distant future. He's done that with many of the other neighborhoods. Isn't he a retired fireman?
He is. The basic concept of map your neighborhood is that you break your neighborhood into pods, and you understand who has what in terms of resources. Somebody might have a way to turn off people's gas. There might be somebody who has a generator or extra freezer, etc., so that you've mapped your neighborhood and you know what the resources are available. You've had some meetings, and people know what to do in the aftermath of a disaster. They're not starting from scratch. So it's disaster preparedness with your neighbors, basically.
Yeah, we did it a couple of years back, but I think it's definitely time to redo it again. And one of the things we did is for each of the different areas of Washington Square, the different streets people met, and we take inventory also. So like people who may have what equipment they have, or let's say someone's got a pool. It's like, okay, if there's a disaster, here's a pool, there's some source of drinking water. If someone's like, one of the meetings, there was someone we found out was a retired fireman. So it was really good to know, like in the case of emergency, here's a retired fireman. He knows about procedure. And it's just basically figuring out a way, and when there's an emergency like this, to be a little bit self-sufficient for the first day or two. Because when there's a big emergency happening, the firemen and the fire trucks, when they come by, they're just surveying. They're just gonna go right by. They're ordered like not to stop and help or anything like that. So we really have to kind of be prepared and have your supplies and everything like that, so you're at least sustainable for at least a couple days. So this program's really good. But I do want to ask you, Mindy, so this guy's different because we reached out with Red Cross before, but he does this independently, or?
Yes, he's over in Hastings Ranch, and he has organized that entire area. So he has a very specific protocol that he teaches everybody what to do.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, we went to a meeting where he was presenting that, and he's very thorough, and he makes it so it's not difficult. And he was encouraging everybody from other neighborhoods to contact him, and he does it for free. You know, he just feels that it's important. So
I just want to find out where everybody's water is in case there's a disaster.
Where everybody's liquor cabinet is in case.
Liquor cabinet.
Yeah. So, and is there anything else that anyone else has to say? Questions?
Yeah, I have something. It's not directly relevant to anything except the issue of the climate came up, and I'd like to put in a plug for the Citizens Climate Lobby of Pasadena area in the foothills. We meet the second Saturday in the morning of each month, the second Saturday of each month in the morning by Zoom. And it's a very interesting organization that is supporting a market-based approach to getting out of the climate economy, out of the carbon economy, and pushing bills like the carbon fee and dividend reinvestment. And I'm on the organizing committee for the California statewide conference coming up in February. So if anybody's interested, contact me at selkincarl@gmail.com.
Carl, can you put your email into the chat?
I could, if I could remember.
Can you write your email in the chat? Are any other questions, comments?
That about wraps it up.
And one other comment, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'd really like to thank and congratulate you guys who've taken this on for so many years. You've done a real, having been early on an organizer of the neighborhood, I know how much work is involved, how much pleasure too, but you guys have done an absolutely stunning job, and thank you.
Yes, thank you guys. I second that.
Well, thank Josh and Tamara as well. They
Yeah,
year after year have put out the block party.
Yeah, it's taken a lot of work by a lot of people.
Yeah. And for those of you that are new to the neighborhood, someday the block party will rise again. And it's pretty impressive. We have music, we have jumpy houses, we have the fire department, we have crafts fair, we have auctions, we have raffles.
We
heard beer.
I think it's the best block party in Pasadena, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm biased.
When we moved, that was one of the first things we heard about. So.
Oh, really?
Really? I think one of the realtors talks about it. She's found out. I wonder if it's her name. Might be.
No.
Last year was our best. We had a taco bar. We had a beer garden. It was impressive.
It was Jan across the street.
Oh, yeah.
I heard about it from Rona.
Oh, okay, good. From neighbors. That's even better. But I think Vanya has said before, she has said that her husband, who has to go to tons of these, has said that ours is the best. So that seemed like a really solid plug.
You say that to all the neighborhoods.
Probably. But I totally I was like,
we'll take it.
I took it.
Well, we just want to say it's really great meeting all of you virtually for now. And if you're passing by or walking your dog, say hi. We're always home now, as I'm sure everybody is. And so we work around the house and we choose different rooms, different days, so we don't get bored. But
Awesome.
stop on or wave and say hi.
We'll do. It's nice to meet you, Brett.
Yeah, great to meet all of you.
Okay, and please keep in mind October 2nd, 7 p.m. for the next meeting.
We'll send. Are we sending an email out about that or a post?
Yes, I'm
about
going
that?
to send out more detailed information about exactly what it is.
We'll do another.
So we'll do flyers. And Josh, would you mind running it again? The meeting?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I have no tech skills, so thank you. You did a great, and thank you for tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Josh.
Yeah,
You did a
thank you,
great
Josh.
job.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm just glad it worked out. I'm glad everyone was able to attend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Very good. Thanks,
Have
Josh.
a good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.